Nigeria is one of the few nations in the world with remarkable histories. From regional government to federalism, Nigeria has continuously charted ways of entrenching good governance, harmonious coexistence, and lasting development. The efforts of the country's founding fathers and subsequent leaders have so far yielded tremendous results as the nation sustained her well-deserved sovereignty and unity of purpose against various odds. Since gaining her independence in 1960, Nigeria has proven to be a destination for the future, irrespective of challenges at various stages. The evolution of federalism, which sees the central in deep affiliation to state and local government, has equally played vital roles in cementing the ties that bind the people of Nigeria together, notwithstanding the ethnic, cultural, social, and religious differences. Indeed, though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Now, within 60 years of our independence, Nigeria has experienced 21 years of uninterrupted democratic governance, leading to further national achievements in all sectors and still counting. Nigeria at 60, three-tier federalism and democracy is our thrust tonight on Weekend File, even as the nation basks in the euphoria of our Diamond Anniversary celebration. Reports from across the zones will provide needed inroads to our discussion as Professor Tahir Maman, a former Director General, Nigeria Law School and currently the Vice Chancellor of Bayes University, and I also have Professor Tony Onishi, Department of Public Administration and Local Government of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and a visiting professor of the University of Abuja. They are on the wings to give us an in-depth analysis. I am Kenen Ima Abodike. Let's begin with the news. President Muhammadu Buhari has a strong representation for total elimination of nuclear weapons, warning that trafficking in nuclear materials remains a potential threat to international peace and security. This was in a virtual address to the UN high-level meeting to commemorate and promote the International Day for the Total Elimination of Nuclear Weapons held on the margins of the UN General Assembly. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the report.
President Muhammadu Buhari told participants at a high-level meeting that concrete evidence has shown that nuclear weapons are unique in their destructive power as well as the scale of human suffering they inflict and the misery and bad blood they leave in their wake.
The anniversary is a forceful reminder of the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons which undermine global, national, and human security. Hence, there is need for all states to comply with applicable international laws and conventions to ensure a world free of nuclear weapons.
The Nigerian leader called on the United Nations to continue engaging nuclear weapon states to speed up their efforts in disarming and decommissioning their existing nuclear facilities. This, he said, is the best approach towards avoiding damage associated with nuclear materials such as humanitarian crises, accidents, disasters, and criminality.
We are concerned about the slow pace of progress by nuclear weapon states to accomplish the total elimination of their nuclear arsenals. In accordance with their legal obligations and undertakings under Article 6 of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. While there are no easy solutions when we confront one of the gravest existential threats to the survival of the human race, we must remain undeterred and committed to a world of safety and security, one without volatility caused by nuclear weapons.
The president said, apart from reforming the national nuclear security sector to make it robust and reliable, Nigeria has also been involved in the promotion of peaceful application of nuclear science and technology at national and international levels.
Let me seize this opportunity to highlight the 1996 advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice, which affirms that the threat or use of nuclear weapons constitutes a crime against humanity and a violation of international law, including international humanitarian law.
As one of the countries at the vanguard of the campaign for the total elimination of nuclear weapons, Nigeria joined like-minded states to sponsor the resolution titled Taking Forward Multilateral Nuclear Disarmament Negotiations, which led to the legally binding treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. In Abuja, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has signed the instrument of ratification of the Doha Amendments of the Kyoto Protocol. Announcing the development in Kaduna, Minister of Environment Dr. Muhammad Mahmoud Abubakar said Nigeria is the 144th country to sign the treaty. Muhammad Umar Ajingi reports.
Climate change affects many nations, with developing countries suffering more, even though they are lesser emitters of the greenhouse gases. The Minister of Environment says this is why Nigeria agreed with the decision of other member countries to endorse the United Nations Treaty aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
And the continuation of rising temperature can spell a catastrophe. Continuation or aggravation of climate change will make even the coronavirus pandemic a child play, because the coronavirus killed the human capital. Climate change killed the people, property, land. Even island nations currently that are in the middle of oceans are gradually losing their land mass.
The agreement signed by 140 countries across the globe came into reality with the final endorsement by Nigeria. The minister says the agreement will not have materialized without a great move by the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, a decision which has since been delivered to the United Nations office in New York. The intention of this agreement is to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 40% to avoid global warming. In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Umar Ajingi, NTA News.
Now, the Comptroller General of Nigeria Immigration Service, Muhammad Babandede, says the service has introduced a new visa fee as approved by the Ministry of Interior, which is based on the principles of reciprocity. Details of the new visa fees are in the service website www.immigration.gov.ng. The implementation of the new visa fees and Nigerian Visa Policy 2020 commences on 1st October 2020. Now to security matters, where the subsidiary Operation Hailstorm 2 currently being executed by the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole has again recorded appreciable success in their resolve to forestall terrorists' activities in the Northeast Zone. Crews of Operation Hailstorm 2 neutralized several Boko Haram terrorists and destroyed their hideouts at Meimar and Tusuye settlements near Warshale and Tongule along the Dekwa-Ran axis of Borno State during airstrikes. Accordingly, the Air Task Force dispatched an appropriate force package of Nigerian Air Force fighter jets and helicopter gunships to engage the two locations. The attack aircraft scored devastating hits in the target areas, destroying some structures and neutralizing several of the terrorists. Arising from the need to achieve a successful, safe, peaceful and hate-free governorship election in Ondo State, the Federal Railroad Safety Corps (FRSC) has deployed 1,500 personnel to cover the election, which is billed to hold on Saturday, October 10, 2020. The Corps Marshal, Dr. Boboye Oyemi, equally approved a total of 30 vehicles, including tow trucks, ambulances and other operational vehicles to 18 local government areas in the state. The deployed personnel are to ensure enforcement of no movement order, certification of INEC vehicles to be used to convey electoral materials, removal of obstructions and rescue operations, as well as joining other sister agencies to maintain orderliness at assigned polling booths. Personnel are to conduct themselves in a professional manner, carry out their duties diligently, and ensure compliance with the Presidential Task Force directives on COVID-19. This is Weekend File on the NTA. We'll take a break now. When we return, our conversations on Nigeria at 60, 3 tiers federalism and democracy will be in focus with our guests, who will give us an insight into the past, the present, and the future.
My tailor don't be your mate. He don't live for your grade. If he knock you a bata, tell nobody hell. Anytime I want to celebrate, he goes so the clock, he know the late. He dey sweet me like a chocolate. My tailor know the disappoint. Tailor we go Harvard University. You don't go the jump like a baka. If you see my tailor,
make that switch today and enjoy all calls at 11 kobo per second. Free data on every recharge and double data for 3 months on the network with the widest 4G coverage.
Okay, my tailor.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
The Presidency and the National Assembly will hold a 2-day joint executive legislative leadership retreat, which will be attended by members of the Federal Executive Council and top government functionaries, as well as leadership and committee chairmen of the National Assembly, aimed at strengthening partnership and collaboration in governance. The retreat will be declared open by His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Date Monday 5th to Tuesday 6th October 2020. Venue State House Conference Center, Presidential Villa, Abuja. Time 9 a.m. daily. Registration of all participants will be on Monday 5th October 2020 by 8 a.m. at the same venue. Attendance is strictly by invitation. Announcer Andrew David Adejo, Permanent Secretary, Political and Economic Affairs Office, Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation.
Moments can be ordinary. It's what we make of them that really matter. Like super moms do with Indomie. Moments to laugh with Indomie. Moments to learn with Indomie. Moments to care with Indomie. Moments to share with Indomie. Moments like no other to appreciate. Moms create special family moments with your love. Celebrate these delicious moments with Indomie noodles. Indomie noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
In handing over the documents to the Federal Prime Minister, Alhaji Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, Her Royal Highness handed over sovereignty to a new nation. This was the dramatic takeover by the new nation's own green and white flag.
NTA News 24. A 24-hour news station brings to you news and happenings 7 days a week.
News at 10 a.m., news updated 11 and 1 p.m.
News desk at 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. and late evening news at 11 p.m.
Follow us on any of our platforms and keep abreast of events and current affairs within and outside our shores.
We are on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46,
Star Times channel 101 and Free TV channel 703.
Join us.
Thank you for staying with us on Weekend File. Constitutional development in Nigeria dates back to the pre-colonial era when the British government used order in council as law and treaties to administer its colonies. But as agitations for self-rule after amalgamation of Nigeria, the need to galvanize the people became imperative. This gave rise to the issue of constitutional development involving those who the laws were made to serve. Tunde Saiki now takes us through some of the features and shortfalls of these constitutional developments in the country over the years.
The colonialists were empowered to make treaties and agreements with empires and peoples in the late 1800 and early 1900. Within this period, the British colonialists took charge through order in council that made these protectorates a political entity. It was referred to then as Nigerian Council, headed by Lord Frederick Lugard, who was then the Governor General.
The Clifford Constitution of 1922 was only for the governance of the colony and protectorate of southern Nigeria. And under that constitution, there was a legislative council established for the colony and protectorate of southern Nigeria.
Other constitutional development attempts were the Sir Clifford 1922 Constitution, the 1946 Richard Constitution, and the Sir John Macpherson's in 1951. There were also the 1954 Littleton Constitution that gave Nigerians hope for independence, and eventually the 1960 Independent Constitution. All these had their flaws, making it colonial head to seek for a soft landing through an enactment of a new constitution. The 1963 Republican Post-Independent Constitution was the first Nigerian's written and adopted constitution. Between 1966 and 1979, the military took charge with decrees until the 1979 Constitution. So also the 1999 that was produced under the influence of the military.
A 49-man constitutional drafting committee led by late Chief F.R.A. Williams. And eventually the committee had to come up with what we call a presidential system of government which adopted presidential constitution.
Within the period of military administration and the various republics, there had been constitutional conferences to amend either the 1979 or the 1999 constitution. One was in 1989, which ushered in the Third Republic that lasted for only a few years. It had two-party system.
It made serious and so many special provisions that cuts across both political, party system, economic, social, educational developments.
It will be recalled that each of these constitutions recognized one form of administration or the other, like regionalism, federalism, and a parliamentary system of government, while others align with the presidential system, multi-party, and a two-party system of democracy. In Lagos, Tunde Saiki, NTA News.
Northern Nigeria has had a system of administration with Kaduna as its headquarters before the advent of colonial rule. Abdullahi Mohammed in this report examines the legacies of the administration of the northern region and its impact on national integration.
Hoisting the Union Jack and the amalgamation of northern and southern protectorates were turning points in the history of Nigeria. They are twin events that took the indigenous system of administration to the slaughter. In northern Nigeria, for instance, there was a system of administration that predates even the jihad of Sheikh Usman dan Fodio. The colonial masters therefore took advantage of the established system of administration and decided to rule indirectly.
In the north, we have a well-established emir administration. This well administration, they predated even the jihad of Sheikh Usman dan Fodio. We have the Hausa city-state, and the jihad of Usman dan Fodio reform and further entrench or establish the system of governance in the northern state.
At independence, the elites like the late premier of northern Nigeria began a massive movement deliberately targeted at developing the region and uniting its people, with the Lugal Hold serving as a rallying point. This has had a huge measure of success, but cut short.
Our previous legislation did not give us power to raise loan from the Federation, and that is why this law is necessary.
Nigeria has, however, not rested on its errs towards breaking grounds in the establishment of initiatives that encourage unity in diversity.
There are so many other factors that bound the people of Nigeria together, long before the coming of the British. But the British only divide a rule. Why? Because they have to see how they can divide the people of Nigeria. Nigeria is a great and a very potential country. But our major nightmare, major crisis is our division of the people along its religious line. Diversity is a blessing.
As Nigeria marks 60 years of self-rule, the calls for national cohesion tops the aspirations of the people. In Kaduna, Abdullahi Muhammad, NTA News.
The journey to nationhood for Nigeria has witnessed the different systems of governance equal to the current federalism under which the country is celebrating 60 years. In this report, Oyeyinka Omole reviews the transition from regional government to federalism and the need for sustainability and democratic governance.
Since the amalgamation that established Nigeria as a single entity in 1914, different systems of government have been in operation. A regional system was adopted during the build-up to independence and the First Republic. This gave birth to healthy competition among the free federating units of the western, eastern, and northern regions in terms of developmental process. Although the system was not without its shortcomings, such as structural imbalances and domination by majority ethnic group, which led to creation of the Midwestern region in 1963 before the military takeover through a coup d'etat.
The National Assembly, in which case that bill we propose to amend Section 8 and 9 of the 1999 Constitution, which essentially is a military law. And then it will now provide for a clause that gives the people the right and opportunity to give unto themselves constitution, which doesn't exist.
From the beginning of the Second Republic till date, how has the federal system of government fared?
Shed more powers, shed more responsibility to the state and local government, and make sure that it has financial backend.
So we often talk about the structure. This structure was given to us by force. These are structures that we have changed over the years. We on our own moved from 3 regions to 4 regions to 12 states to 19 states to 21 states to 36 states. So everything depends on what we are able to do and how willing we are to make sacrifices to, reduce our selfishness.
Playing the blame game, according to our respondents, may be an impediment to needed unity, development, and growth in Nigeria. They are, however, of the opinion that all efforts must be geared towards entrenching the much-needed peace and unity for the overall development of the nation. In Ibadan, Oyeyinka Omole, NTA News.
We will go into our discussion tonight as I introduce Professor Tahir Maman, former Director General, Nigeria Law School and currently Vice Chancellor, Bayes University, Abuja. Thanks for joining us on Weekend File.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We also have Professor Tony Onishi of the Department of Public Administration and Local Government, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Professor Onishi is also a visiting professor of Political and International Relations, University of Abuja. Professor Onishi, thank you too for joining us.
Having me.
All right, let's start this way. It's 60 years and still counting. Nigeria, of course, transited from regional unitary system to federalism. Now, has the practice of the federal system really promoted democracy in Nigeria? That's the question for Professor Onishi. Let's start with you.
I think to some extent, yes, and to a great extent, no, because of the advent, particularly the advent of the military onto the political scene, because we had our problems after independence, and we had 2 major tiers of government after independence. That is the regional government and the federal government. But upon the coming of the military, there was an attempt to move the federal system towards a unitary style of governance. And of course, you know, the military ruled mainly by fiat, by decrees. And the first institution that became the casualty of military intervention was the legislative and the democratic institutions. And so because of that, and because of an attempt as a result of the historical experience of Nigeria and the fact of the Civil War, the military, in an attempt to look for a way of promoting unity, tended to apply uniform policies. For instance, let's look at the financial independence of the regions before the military came. Before the military came, the major principle of revenue allocation was by, derivation, and the regions were to a great extent, in terms of resource, independent, and they were now managing their resources and then paying to the federal government. So the federal government was not as overbearing as it is now, under the First Republic. So the advent of the military is what has created the problem. And then gradually and increasingly, we are having a unitarizing federal system, and that is why you have tension now. And people are talking about, restructuring, reform, devolution. So the problem is that to manage diversity, you must actually reasonably and substantially dissolve power from the central level to the federating units. So the federation as we operate, if you look at even the revenue allocation formula, the situation where the federal government alone takes more than about 52.72% of the resources from the finances from federation accounts, and then the whole 774 local government and 36 states plus Abuja shares about 47.2% of the resources. And then if you look at the subjects on which the federal government legislates, not about the National Assembly legislates, we find out that there are so many, they are so heavy at the center, and that has resulted in the federating units being relatively weak, resulting in a situation where the states and local government, particularly the states, are always coming to Abuja, which is the center of national affairs, almost cap in hand begging, not to talk about the local government. So we have problem with the constitution, and I have said in different fora that the problem of the federal system is that power is concentrated at the center, and it is a constitutional problem. It is not a problem of the present regime. It's a constitutional problem, it's an institutional problem, and it needs reforms. If you listen to the speakers after speakers on the platform about 2 days ago, you found out that every person, starting from the former chairman of INEC, was talking about institutional reforms. Institutional reforms is what we need in order to devolve power to the federating units. And then the states, on their own part, are also stifling the local governments as a result of institutional anemia because of the problem of the constitution. So I think that the problem we have, there's a constitutional problem, and that the military has encouraged a militarizing, centralizing, and dictatorial federal system. And of course, again, because the
issue at the moment. Let's bring in Professor Tahir Maman. If you listen to Professor Tony Onishi, he took us back to where we started, constitutionally speaking, and up to now we've evolved and transited from this to that. Now we even have 36 states and a federal capital, territory. He also mentioned about the local government system, which is supposed to, complement development even at the grassroots. Now, what are your own submissions on the matter?
Thank you very much, Osmo. Since colonial rule, Nigeria certainly has had a very checkered history in terms of the development of its federalism since 1900. And however, we take that as a journey, if you take that evolution as a journey, you will, yes, agonize that certain things have not been achieved, but certainly we've been growing incrementally. Remember, during colonial Nigeria, it was not Nigeria at that time, but the structure at that time was unitary. It evolved into a federation from 1946, 1954, onwards, with an increasing number of states, and from 3, we came into independence with 3 regions, 4, 12, 19, to this 2036. Now, along this line, we've been able to register positive developments in a number of areas. One man, one vote, creation of bringing government closer to the people in terms of even the states themselves. The local government we have mentioned, they are all structures which brought government closer to the people. Yes, as I said, you look at it as a journey. Now, when you have a journey, you have milestones along that journey that you want to be able to achieve. It's a very long journey because the journey of a nation is not a place you say, I have arrived at a destination. No, it will till eternity. So all these milestones that you want to see or achieve along these journeys are your signposts. So in our own situation, we a lot of times tend to mistake the form from the substance. In terms of form, we've done very well, honestly. But in terms of the substance, we're not where we're supposed to be. Yes, we always compare ourselves with countries that we started off with at independence, like Malaysia, Singapore, and all those. This is where our problem is. But it is not the problem of our federalism as such. It's not a problem of the form. It is our attitude that is the problem. It is the leadership that we've had that is the problem. So these are where I believe, while along the line as we move on, we need to review periodically the form to ensure that it is good enough to provide efficiency and effectiveness in achieving those substance. Now, however, if we miss our focus and simply focus on the form, as a lot of us have been doing, then we take away from where the real problem of the country now is, which is one of leadership, one of handling of our resources, because I've had a lot of arguments where, yes, flow back, give more resources to the states. I agree with that to a large extent, because right now, if you look at the Constitution, the distribution of powers between states and federal, you have about 68 items in the exclusive list, and then just about 30 in the concurrent list. And even those on those concurrent lists, there are things which the federal and they share with the states. But the point is, those powers we are saying should be plowed back to the states, the powers and the resources which should be plowed back to the states, are they utilizing properly? Are they showing responsibility? Are they giving to Nigerians what is due to them, as leaders? To me, these are very critical questions when you are considering plowing back all those powers. So these two things have to go together instead of simply dismissing our journey for almost 100 years as if we haven't achieved anything at all.
We have actually as a nation. Yes, but I'd like to stay with you on this matter, Professor Maman. Professor Tony Onishi actually made mention of it, the local government system, which is supposed to be an integral part of, the federating system that we have. But then people see that as the major weakling in terms of development. What is wrong?
Well, again, the local government system really is even the original system of government which we had. That was what the colonial governments met. They met various ethnicities of Nigeria, east, west, north, having a system of government. Now, which later they converted to native authorities, and subsequently from 1976 sort of onwards, they were converted to local government through that reform and then constitutional provision for it, and then continuous strengthening of it. Even 1988, when efforts were made actually to even introduce professionalism in the management of the local government. And then 1989, again, it was further reinforced. But unfortunately, the 1989 Constitution took away a very major, or introduced something that caused a problem for local government, which is what they call the state joint accounts. And from 1999 to the 1989 Constitution, there was this half-hearted approach to the existence of local government as a tier of government. So it may not even be correct to say it's a third tier of government. It is not, because all that it has in the Constitution is a recognition, but not the establishment of it. It only directs the states to guarantee the existence of local government, provide structure, functions, and all these sort of things. But what have the states done? They simply subsumed it as part of their scheme. And to me, it no longer serves the purpose of having them as a tier of government. It is better they go back to the states, simply will scrap them, and then let the states do how they wish to manage governance at that local level.
Okay, let's return to Dr. Tony Onishi here. You actually started off this conversation on wide perspectives, because I know you talked about federalism. Now, let's ask you this. Are we as a nation practicing true federalism in your own submission, sir?
We are not. We are not, because of, if you look at different subjects of governance, let's take, for instance, the issue of police. You know, you find out that the part of the crisis we're having in the security, subsector is the fact of the management of the security system. In most federations, in America, for instance, in Switzerland, in Australia, in all these places, even native authorities. And of course, you know that before the Nigerian Civil War, in the First Republic, that native authorities ran police. They operated police, they administered police. Certain critical functions are not dissolved for the simple reason that resources are centralized at the national level. And regime after regime has had vested interest in preserving it. And there's tension now, and there's restiveness, because of the fact that the management, from this point of view of even efficiency, in the federation where you have about 360 plus tongues, if you like, languages, ethnic groups, with more than 200 million people, you need to have what the Americans call marble cake model of federation, particularly at local level, where you have different functions. Do you know that Ghana is a unitary system runs a unitary system of government? But Ghana's public administration governance system is more devolved. Britain runs a unitary system of government, but it is more devolved than Nigeria, that is a federal system, with great diversity of culture, great diversity of language, great diversity of religion, and a lot of other things. So what is required for true federalism is, for instance, in America and Australia, states have constitution. They make constitution, they run constitution. So if you talk about ability of states and federating units and the lower jurisdictions of governance, their ability to govern and ability to administer, once you have laws, for instance, if we reform the constitution in such a way that states can have their own constitution, it will make provision and guide against abuse. Presently, they are talking about state governors and state governments being imperial systems, or state governors being emperors and all that. That is because you have not devolved powers properly. If you devolve and give states the right to even make constitution, there will be provision, there will be constitutional and legal provision to guard against attempt to be, tyrannical on the part of those who operate at that level. I agree with people that even the regional system, some people were suffocating, some people were against it because of marginalization, because of oppression, because of discrimination. So if you are structuring, it's not necessarily that you're going to recreate the region, but you're going to sufficiently dissolve power so that the different units, I have told you about Ghana, you have town council. Just yesterday, a group of young men, we are showing pictures in Joy News of Ghana of projects done by local government chairmen as a way of advancing and touting for, converting for such local government. I tell you they are performing, which means that those local councils, those county councils, those provincial councils are actually their politics and their canvassing proposals based upon performance. So there's no two way. The plethora of ungoverned places you have around the place is because you have concentrated power at state level or at the national level. If you develop power like you have elsewhere, like I've given you research of Britain, where you have school councils and you have functions, even chartered away to groups and corporations, and that's why you have the Quangos in Britain, quasi-autonomous governmental organizations. So if you do such things, it is for the purpose of efficiency, so that actually social services, and if you develop power properly, then at the local level, you begin to have what the Americans call, because the Americans started with the local authorities and the county councils before the states started gathering power, because it was a centripetal form of formation of federation. The states were coming to join. Unlike Nigeria that moved centripetal and again started moving centrifugal, as a result of the need to take account of diversity, as a way of trying to manage diversity. I still believe that there is still room to improve in terms of the operation of our federal system. And the way to improve is institutional reforms to ensure that power gets to the people. Federal government has no business controlling the amount of resources, controlling the subjects of legislation and administration that it's presently controlling. It is stifling the
Professor Tony Onishi, thanks for those submissions. Of course, you're watching Weekend File on the NTA. Another break beckons. Stay with us.
We don't almost reach, Abby. Okay. Guys, the mechanic is almost here.
Madam!
So what do you think is wrong?
Madam, no be smart way they worry this your bike. Carburetor and radiator, you don't pafuka. If you want to fix that, 50,000.
I guess I have no choice. Give me size 10 Allen Q.
Madam, the top don't spoil now. You need to buy new one. New one at 16,000.
Thanks for the help, guys. I'll be on my way now. For renting your tools.
Do what you've never done before. Find your first with these mega data plans. Dial *777#.
Before, malaria they knock me basbos. And then one day I go pharmacy.
Have you tried Malact? Malact is the effective malaria medicine from May and Baker, makers of quality medicines for over 75 years. Malact contains a combination active drug called dihydroartemisinin piperacin, which keeps working in your body for up to 6 weeks, stopping the malaria parasite from knocking you down. This is why Malact is your control button against malaria.
Now 3 tablets I take every day for 3 days.
Now so Malact give malaria boy once. Now my head be malaria. I go punch my own by time.
Malact, your control button against malaria. Available in pharmacies near you.
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you in your living room, office, everywhere and anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, GoTV channel 91, Freeview UK channel 264, or you can download www.visiontv.co.uk. App for iOS or Android, Intelsat 901 degree east. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube for quality content on the go. NTA International, Africa's window to the world.
For unity and development to thrive in the country, there is need for a harmonious relationship between the 3 tiers of government. This is the position of a cross-section of Nigerians who spoke on the unity of purpose among the tiers of government for national development. Justina 18 reports.
The Nigerian government is structured in 3 tiers, comprising federal, state, and local governments, with each of the tier performing distinct and separate roles for proper administration of the system. Though these tiers of government operate independently, there is a synergy of responsibilities between them in the areas of revenue allocation, power sharing, provision of infrastructure, and development of agriculture for food sufficiency, among others.
The federal government should allow the state government to do her job, and the state government should also allow the local governments to do their job. They are all working together for the improvement of the common man.
At the local government level, we are trying to, by the grace of God, work with His Excellency to see how dividends of democracy must be attracted to the people.
For Cross River, I know the three tiers of government are working cooperatively.
Over the years, there has been this argument that the concentration of much power at the center has hindered the performance of other tiers.
Love to see a situation where the local government, the state government are in control of what they produce.
As the way forward,
until each state, each local government begins to have its own source of funding, its own internal revenue that can sustain it, federalism will be difficult to be practiced. There's supposed to be a kind of a monitoring mechanism where the federal government is supposed to monitor the states, and the states now should also have that responsibility to monitor what is happening at the local level.
It is believed that if the three tiers of government work harmoniously, their complementary roles will go a long way to foster unity and attract national development. In Calabar, Justina Etam, NTA News.
We still have Professor Todi Onishi and Professor Tahir Maman on Weekend File tonight. Professor Maman, let's look at the financial independence, particularly as they relate to the legislature and judiciary. You know, can we encourage a kind of financial independence for these two arms so that they don't overburden the executive?
Yes, certainly. In a federal system, these arms are supposed to be fairly autonomous of each other while working together, cooperating, because we're talking about single country, the same nation, so the goal is the same. But for each arm of government to be able to work successfully, efficiently, it shouldn't have to go back to the other arm, caps in hand, as it were. Especially the judiciary, which has a very sensitive responsibility in sorting out disputes within the country, even among the arms of government. So it's a very weak area. It's an area of weakness for them to have to go to any of the tiers of government begging for money. So financial autonomy is a key element of their independence.
Okay, but then what about the clamor for creation of more states, even when we have local government areas? Dr. Todi Onishi, how do you look at that?
Of clamor for creation of states is a creature of the character of the governance system and the creature of the character of the states. I've argued a long time, way in the 90s, that if you create states, you are likely to have clamor even within that state, new state you have created. You see what I'm saying? So you keep having clamor for creation of states because people believe that the more you create states, the more their own people are in power and the more they have access. But if there is, if you like, a comprehensive reform, institutional reform, a groundswell of institutional reform that guarantees the liberty, guarantees the right, the economic and social rights and political rights of citizens. It is because people believe that if they have their own unit created as a state, that's the only when they will be protected. But if you do sufficient institutional reform, then the institution will be stronger than human beings. And then it will encourage enterprise. People will know that they don't have to know people in politics. They don't have to know people in position to be able to access public largesse or the values that should be available to the person as a citizen. So you keep requesting for creation of state and local government because you must have minority. As you create new local government, you have new minority. As you create more state, you have more this thing. What we are talking about is that the federating units should have enough power so that, because a federation is a composite of the federating units. The state is a composite of the local government. Once these constituent parts at the different level are doing well in terms of development, in terms of administration and social services, there will be tension. And that is why if you keep doing this, you keep creating structures and positions, and people who get into it keep messing it up, keep committing act of corruption, committing act of miscarriage of justice, inequity and all that, and they keep having frustration and complaints and all that. So the thing we have to do is to look at the ground norm again, take a look at the constitution again overall. If possible, with a doctrine of necessity, we can make another constitution now by the people. That's why I see it. Not necessarily the kind of restructuring people are talking about that threatens the unity of the country, no. But to get power back to the people. Give power back to the people, because power belongs to the people, you know. And you can't get power back to the people when you centralize political power, administrative powers.
Thank you, Professor Tony Onishi. Professor Tahir Maman, let's bring you in on this particular issue of a clamor for greater states curation, and of course, by extension, more local government. What do you say?
Well, actually, these are some of the effects of people's dissatisfaction with the structure and the operation of the federation itself, or federalism in the country. And it's people's feeling that they are not getting fair share from the federation, or there's a threat to their existence, their culture, and everything which communities stand for. Now, we take our mind back to the period even before independence. You remember the Wooden Commission was set up as the prelude to our independence because of the fear of minorities at that time, that look, when Nigeria becomes independent, all the minority groups in Nigeria, well, they were very fearful that they would be oppressed, they won't get what is due to them from the federation. Now, the Wooden Commission was very categorical on the view that, look, creating more states or regions at that time, states will not address their problem.
Okay.
So what they did was to simply recommend the provision of the Fundamental Human Rights Chapter, the fundamental rights, as a form of protection, as a device for protecting minority rights. That's why we have that provision in the Constitution. And then it also provided for police to be under the federal government.
Okay.
So that it's because at that time police were under native authorities, and they were using all those things to harass their opponents and the minorities.
Yeah.
Now, from that time, from 3 regions, we are now into 36 states, 74 local governments, and then the agitation has not abated. So that clearly shows you that it's not a solution really to the problem. What is the solution to it is fair play, fairness, justice in the system.
Across boards.
Across the boards.
All right.
And good governance.
Thank you very much, Professor Tahir Maman, former Director General, Nigeria Law School, and currently Vice Chancellor, Bayes University, Abuja. And of course, Professor Tony Onishi of the Department of Public Administration and Local Government, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Thank you for your submissions on the program tonight. Well, let's go to sports, as George Gibbs tells us that OG Monday and Kaninko Stephen have emerged champions of sailing tournament in Lagos.
Being the bedrock of sailing sports in Nigeria, the Navy Sailing Club based in Lagos has reiterated its commitment towards putting Nigeria on the world map through its annual Commodore boat race. This year's edition was unique as athletes of various ages competed for honors in swimming, canoeing and kayak events to celebrate Nigeria at 60. The duo of Ojumonde and Kaniko Stephen emerged first in the sailing event, among others.
I believe there's hope for Nigeria. I believe there's hope for Africa. I believe there's hope for us in water sports.
This is the bedrock. This is the origin.
and this is where it all started.
From Abeokuta, Lekon Agbode reports that Hakeem Adegbero has emerged champion of the maiden Ogunswan Oba Akamo table tennis tournament, which ended at the NUJ Secretariat Abeokuta. Adegbero of the Federated Chapel of Nigerian Union of Journalists beat Abiodu Jimo by 2 straight sets, 11-8, 11-7 in the final. From the foreign scene, action continues on Sunday in week 4 of the English Premier League as league leaders Leicester City takes on 11th place West Ham, Southampton faces West Brom, Wolves squares up against Fulham, Arsenal plays host to Sheffield United, Manchester United against Tottenham, while Aston Villa tackles Liverpool. With sports update, Gift George, NTA News.
Next is weather report for Sunday.
You're welcome. Sunday morning across the country should mostly be cloudy. However, there are prospects of isolated thunderstorms activities. Parts of Borno, Taraba, Adamawa, Gombe, Bauchi, extending to some parts of Kogi, Benue, Nasarawa, Abuja, and Kwara of the central cities will experience few thunderstorms, including Abakaliki, Enugu, Ondo, and Ogun of the inland cities. The coastal part, Lagos, Ijebu, Calabar, and Eket, to see some few thunderstorms as well. Further into the day, chances of thunderstorms are high over Yobe, Jigawa, Gombe, Bauchi, the northernmost parts of Sokoto, Kano, and Katsina axis. Also, the high ground areas of the central region down to the southern half of the country will witness thunderstorms and rains in the afternoon into late evening hours. And that's our bit from here. My name is Joyce Ogude. Thank you for watching.
That concludes Weekend File on the NTA today. Thanks indeed for watching. My name is Kenan Ima Abodike. Do enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.